90.3 WHPC now presents Law You Should Know. The law affects every aspect of our lives, our home, our jobs, and our recreational activities. Now, learn about the law and how to protect yourself against the loss of your liberty or property, and learn how to stand up for your rights and seek compensation when you have been wronged. Your host for Law You Should Know is attorney Kenneth J. Landau, a past dean of the Nassau Academy of Law, and frequently lectures to lawyers on ethics and avoiding problems with clients, and to the public on how to choose and use lawyers. This is Law You Should Know on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, this is Ken Landau, and welcome to Law You Should Know. Today, we're going to discuss how the real estate broker helps home buyers and sellers. My special guests are Vivian, Leonard, and Vicky Lagis, and they're both real estate salespersons with Gale, Sotheby's International Realty in Woodbury, New York, and they cover homes all over Long Island and Queens, and the information will be applicable wherever you're listening if you're buying or selling a home. Vivian and Vicky, welcome to Law You Should Know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure that we're here.
And I know you have a lot of useful information for our listeners, and perhaps our listeners are not involved in buying or selling a home, but they know someone who is. So what is the role of the real estate broker? How do you help someone buy or sell a house? Let's talk about selling it.
Well, we first meet with the potential customer and we just kind of show them basically what we do. We help them research different types of homes, the prices on other homes, which we would call comps. We would give them a whole list of homes that would have sold already in their area, that are presently for sale. And that's basically how we would get the price for their home. We make sure they're comfortable with that price as well, because some homeowners think that their home is worth a certain number or they're looking for a certain number, and that's, we try to get as close to that number as possible.
And you're just going to show them the facts behind your evaluation. It's not just something pulling out of the air.
Absolutely.
And what about how they prepare the home for sale? You don't want them to renovate the entire house. What are the things they should do and the things they don't need to do in selling their house?
Well, I would have to say, Ken, it's particular to each specific client. If somebody's in a big rush, let's say they have to get out of their home within a certain time, or they want to start in a different, move their home and start in a different school district for their children. If time is a factor and there's urgency, then we really have to move fast. So even though sometimes making their home a little bit more of a blank canvas that would be approachable for new buyers and in turn definitely create much more value and increase the selling, you have to think what is specific to the buyers. So I would say it's very important upon meeting somebody to really look in depth at their situation and understand how you can accommodate them best with what their needs are absolutely first.
And also, from your expertise, there might be some kind of big turnoff or something that needs to be corrected, and that will help make the house much more marketable, make it more presentable, engage buyers, and be a good investment in money.
Right.
Maybe like a painting or cleaning or decluttering.
Here at Gale Sotheby's, we have something called white glove service, and it is excellent to come in and really take a look at what your home aesthetically looks like, what the buyer is going to be seeing. Again, day in and day out, you look at your home, so you almost become very comfortable with the way it is. But from an outside perspective, it could be very, very different looking at it with an entire different lens as far as color, if it's out of date. Sometimes just a very simple fix. I would say if I could suggest something that would be the lowest amount of money to spend but makes a huge impact would be painting the entire interior or exterior white. This makes almost a blank canvas that then prospective buyers coming in really then could see themselves there, because it's very, very light, airy, and almost has a fresh look. I think that along with staging and certain things just to make it aesthetically pleasing to the eye, like fresh flowers, plants, things of that nature, it makes a huge difference. I would say another point is to declutter as much as possible, because less that you see is less confusion. And it really then has a buyer walking in through an open house and they're at ease. If there's so many things that are all over the place, it's hard for them really to picture themselves there.
It also makes the house look more spacious.
Yes.
And so you'll give them advice on this kind of a facelift versus a renovation.
Right, and they can do both. I would always say if you put, even if you have a specific budget, you don't want to ever push somebody in a direction they don't want to go. But if you want the selling price to yield a much higher profit for them, sometimes doing a renovation, kitchen and bath specifically, because I believe, and I've been told many times over, that kitchen and baths are what sell the house. So if you have the time, the capabilities, and the money to do so, it's definitely beneficial for the overall outcome.
Okay. And what about in terms of timing the sale? How long will it take for them to sell their house just so they can figure out what their next step is?
Well, it depends on the market. Right now, the market is a seller's market. So the timing is very quick. Everything moves very quickly. Houses are selling around the 10-day mark, I would say, a week to 10 days, and you already have a buyer who's ready to buy the home. And once you have an accepted offer, everything moves very quickly. Inspections get done, appraisals get done, and within, I would say, 2 to 3 months average, that's when the house is done, contracts are signed, and it's a new owner.
So, and people have to also think about their next option. If they're going to buy
Absolutely.
a house, a co-op, condo, move out of state, they need to keep the timeline in when their next place will be ready for them.
Absolutely. But then you talk about that with your buyers, and you kind of figure out the timeline with them, and you have to let them know that you need to first find a home wherever that might be. And you should be, they should be looking at the same time.
Right. Simultaneous is key, because it's
Yes.
really important to have a game plan to make sure that everything is crystal clear and that you time it right.
Correct.
And you might be able to help them with that also, knowing of what's available as real estate options. Maybe they need less space. Maybe they want to live in a different community. You can help them possibly find something that will fit their budget and their needs in their next step. Or maybe they're looking for a bigger place, whatever
Of course,
it is.
whether it's downsizing or someone's upsizing, it's a blended family. It could quite possibly mean that they're empty nest, they're on a different phase of their life, or they could be moving out of New York. And the wonderful thing about Daniel Gale Sotheby's is we offer referral programs where we have thousands upon thousands of agents all across the U.S. And in all the major cities, we can refer someone that not only is 100% up to the Daniel Gale Sotheby's standard, but also someone that fits with your particular personality, and they're vetted out prior so that it makes sure that the sale and the conversation runs smooth. So not only can we help you if you're within our actual realm or sphere, we can help you anywhere in the United States as well as international.
And we're going to talk about how you help home buyers in a moment. But other problems that may come up in the course of selling the property, they may have made some changes, they may need to fix some things, they may need to get their paperwork in order. These are things that you have resources, you can put them in touch with people who can help them with all of these problems.
Absolutely. We can recommend attorneys, we can recommend all the type of people that they would need to find their paperwork. They do have to gather all their paperwork before we put the house up for sale, just to have everything in order so that when the buyer does come in, it's all in place. They have to have their surveys together. They have to have...
Right, and we certainly, Vivian, dot our I's and cross our T's, because it could be that a homeowner's been living in a home for 30 or 40 years and
Yes.
really truly believe that the fence or the deck that they have or the garage has a CO, and the actual truth is once we go to the town or the incorporated village and pull the file, we find out that it's completely different. So we have a whole host of team like expediters and things that are at our fingertips that we could very easily pull and make something that was bumpy go into a smooth transaction.
And this way also their timeline will be met. You just need to know what the problem is, and you can help them come up with some solution.
Absolutely.
Are there any other problems that have come up that you've been able to help the buyers resolve?
Well, problems meaning that I would say that right now it's a very interesting time in 2022 because there is scarcity on the market. We're dealing with a lot of people that the pool is much, much greater than the homes available. So you don't also know where someone is in the home buying process. They could be just looking, they could be very interested and vested to move, or they could be at their wits' end where they've already lost 10 or 20 homes, and they're very emotionally invested and they just want a home. So you have to be very weary to sit down with someone and really have them interview you as well as you interview them. I always say not everyone is meant to work with each other. Everyone has a different personality, and if you take the time to get to know each other, you can say, I really feel like it would be beneficial to work with someone because your personalities jive. I think that if you can be happy just having a conversation, then the outcome of an entire stressful sometimes situation will be a lot more easy when you truly like the person.
I think on that note, we're about ready to switch gears and talk about how you help people find their home or their next home. And just to remind our listeners, we're talking about buying or selling a home and how the real estate broker can help you do that. Our guests are Vivian, Leonard, and Vicky Lagis, and they're both real estate salespersons with Gale, Sotheby's International Realty in Woodbury, New York. And as you've heard, they have offices all over, and they have access to listings really all over the country, but especially all over Long Island and Queens and New York. And if you missed any portion of this program, a podcast is available at nccradio.org. So people come to you. We've talked about how you help the sellers, how you guide them through, hold their hand. You also show the house for them so they don't have to worry about that. You'll make it as painless as possible. But people also contact you because they're looking for a house in a particular area or a particular price range. And maybe it's their first house or maybe it's their second house. So how do you try to start the process with those home buyers and help them find their dream home or their next home?
Well, first of all, we interview them and we ask them the questions and what they're looking for. We find out what the criteria is in the house. How many bedrooms, baths, do they want a ranch because they don't want the stairs? Do they need a backyard? Do they want a pool? All the different criteria. We take notes on that. And then what we do ask for them to do is to go meet with a mortgage lender. We can recommend one. We have several that we work with, or they find one on their own. And the best thing to do is to get pre-approved, to know how much they can afford in a home and how much of a monthly payment they can have, that they're not going to be over their head with bills. And once they have that pre-approval, it's easier to go shopping for homes because that's a serious buyer. They're not just window shopping. Basically, what they're doing is looking for a home that once they see it and they can actually put a serious offer in and actually take advantage of whatever is in front of them.
And also, what their budget is because homes
Correct.
may be in different price levels and there's no sense showing them a home
Absolutely.
that's beyond their means. And,
of course.
and the homes less than their means may not be something they would be happy with. Mm-hmm. Now, once you found that sweet spot, do you show them homes, right at that level, a little bit less, what a little bit more will get you?
These days, the way the market is, everything is going above asking. So I would show the buyers something a little bit less in their budget, just so that they have that little wiggle room so that they can go above and possibly get that house.
And what about in terms of what they feel their need? Do you help them figure out what they really need versus what they can afford and some kind of sweet spot?
Yes, and I also feel like sometimes in life there are things that you think you absolutely have to check. There are boxes that we have. Some people say to me, I have to live by the water. It's an absolute non-negotiable. It has to happen. I have to have this school district. And you have to, really listen and be in tune to people's feelings and their wants and needs. But sometimes I'll step out of the box and say, okay, this person is working with this type of, budget. Yet I'm going to think that based on what they're saying, they might like this particular village or this area that's not necessarily in the towns that they chose originally. But I go out on a limb and make a listing appointments and I say, you know what, just trust me and come take a peek because majority of everything that you wanted is checked off, but it's not maybe in the exact town or something like that. And 9 chances out of 10, they say to me, I never would have chose to go outside and kind of broaden the radius of where I was looking. But I'm really happy that I did because I didn't know it was available. You don't know what you don't know because you haven't learned it yet. And if you have someone that's professional and understands that, they can try to help you, point you in the right direction.
So you're good at helping them work and expand their options. So they may not know the community next door offers good schools or a good commute or a good lifestyle, but they get more house there. Or that maybe they don't need to be able to walk to the train or walk to shopping. They might get more house if they move a few blocks away or something like that.
Right, and there was a trend during COVID where you saw people from more metropolitan areas, of course, New York City, but Queens as well. We saw all of a sudden this like exodus from the city and from Queens and the different boroughs out to Long Island, where they were born and raised their entire life living in metropolitan areas, and all of a sudden they were very open to say, we want a backyard, we need a deck, we want outdoor space, because we want to create some kind of outdoor oasis, because we all learned from being in, like serious COVID that we are missing something in our lives. So you'd have people that wouldn't know any towns on Long Island. They would talk to a friend. They would say, oh, why don't you look in this town? And they would be dead set and locked on that. And I would say, well, listen, since you don't know it, let me show you 3 other towns just to kind of broaden your horizon, because it's within the same kind of demographic, psychographic, and of course budget. So I just want to show you more options. And I think as a real estate agent, what you can do for your clients is show them that they do have options, and they're plentiful.
And it's good if they know their options. They get this house in the town they were thinking of, but maybe they get a little more in the town next door. And maybe they can't afford the size house and all the amenities they want, but maybe there's a small house on a bigger piece of land, so there's a potential to build or expand or add in that pool.
I would say that it's invaluable. Some people say that they want, they're looking for property. I want acres and acres, but it's just not necessarily in the township or the village that they're choosing, because the area that they chose is more of a metropolitan. But by, I would say expanding the spectrum, you show them something. And I was just recently at a closing, and they said to me, Vicky, I never knew I wanted this until I walked in. And then when I fell in love, I realized I couldn't go back. And it's those things that make me so happy to help people. One house at a time, we say, right, Vivian?
Absolutely.
And they should be aware that you can, just like when you walk in a clothing store and look at something in different colors or different styles, you can show them, comps. You can show them what they get in one town versus one section of town versus another. What a house that's a little bit smaller but has the potential. What they can, what kind of bang they can get for their buck. So they make the choice.
Absolutely. It is always, we have a fiduciary responsibility to work with our clients, and we will show them the utmost respect to always try to not only be respectful to exactly their wants and needs, but to try to, hold their hand in, quite frankly, the largest transaction that they make in their life. I mean, your home is sometimes your largest asset. So it is not only important, but it's an emotional process as well.
And you're going to help them so that house can become their home, whether it needs something before or during or after the closing. You're going to help them find comfort and enjoyment in that home.
Absolutely. Because it's a relationship we build with them. It's not just work for us. It's a relationship. So we see them throughout the whole process. And if they need anything at any time, we are there with recommendations for whatever their needs are for the home.
And as we mentioned before, in terms of the seller, you're also a problem solver and for the buyer as well.
Absolutely. We'll have buyer clients as well as be listing agents. And I think the most important thing is just to make them feel comfortable and know that we're there for the entire process. We do not like to be transactional, but we like to really make people feel comfortable, because like I said, it can be a stressful time, but we're there to alleviate it in any way.
And just generally, if someone is planning on buying a house, how much do they need to put down and how much do they need for closing? Just the percentages or a rough range. Obviously the moral is they should be starting to save now, and maybe they can get gifts from parents, or maybe they got a bonus or won the lottery, whatever it is. Right. Just to give someone a yardstick so they can think about it.
Usually the rule of thumb is 20%. 20% of whatever it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for a $500,000 home, let's say, you would at least need $100,000, but that's not all you need. That's just your down payment. You're also going to need money for closing costs and for other additional fees that come after that. They need inspections that need to be paid for. There's lots of fees that go along with it. If they're looking for a home, let's say over $999,000, there's also a mansion tax that they have to assess, and that's 1% of the whole asking price. So that's an additional on top of your down payment.
And also people are going to be concerned about property taxes, and you can help them with that when they're looking at houses. And, maybe there's some out there with a lower property tax.
Absolutely. If I could just add, I would definitely say, though, it's not to say, I would say general standard is, yes, an 80-20 conventional, and usually people go in with a 20% down for the payment. However, that does not mean that you cannot get a first-time homeowner. You cannot have 10%. It is possible in all ways. However, when dealing with a little bit of a tougher market, you definitely have to have an edge. So I have, Vivian and I have both represented clients who definitely are putting down less than 20%, sometimes 10, and it's a first-time situation, or you're paying PMI, and you know what, you just want to get in the house, and that's all right. Other times I have people that are putting down 40% down, and they have much more funding, and they still lose the house. It's a case-by-case basis, and it's sometimes about the terms. If I could say something that's very important, it is not always the higher price. This goes for the sellers and the buyers out there. It is not always the higher price is chosen, because terms are very impactful. How long you need to be, the occupancy of when you need to leave, what you're putting down. And another tip I would say is absolutely put money down at contract signing. It's not just, 20% down at closing. No, throw down 10%. If you're going to do 20% total, do 10% at contract signing, and then 10% at closing. If you can do 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, because what we're seeing in the market lately is there are sometimes issues with appraisal when homes are going over asking price. So the more you have that's above a 20%, you can then back it down and cover the spread so there's not a problem with appraisal.
And also, the more cash you have to put down, the more attractive a buyer you may be.
Absolutely. As far as someone that looks a little bit more strong in terms of something that won't fall through, if someone is putting down 10% and is going to look for a mortgage for 90%, as opposed to someone that's putting down 40% and, only looking for financing for 60%, they definitely are a stronger candidate. You have to also see, again, it's terms. Some people say, you know what, I'm going to go all cash, and they think they're going to win the bid, but they say, I need 6 months to move into the house. Well, that homeowner really may want to move in a month or two, so they're going to take an offer that's maybe much less, because to them, leaving quicker, they don't have to have the carrying costs, they don't have to be paying the mortgage for months and months more. So it's not always the higher price that's most attractive.
So it could be flexibility on when you're going to move in and when you're going to move out. That may save the day.
Definitely.
I'd like to remind our listeners that we're talking about how the real estate broker helps home buyers and sellers. And we're talking with Vivian, Leonard, and Vicky Lagos. And they're from Gale, Sotheby's International Realty in Woodbury, New York. But they have offices and connections all over Long Island, the city, and you've heard the country. If you mentioned earlier about preparing the house to sell. So if someone's thinking about doing it down the road, it's still good to begin the decluttering process and maybe the sprucing up process.
Oh, yeah. The sooner you start, the better. If you're planning on selling in 6 months, it's best to start, because if you're in the home for 20, 30 years, you've accumulated a lot of stuff. I'm guilty of that myself. So you should definitely start decluttering and painting and just kind of making it look brighter and cleaner to show.
And again, they're not alone. You can provide tips and even people to help do those things for the potential home buyer.
Definitely. There are people that we can recommend that will come in and organize. They'll come in and declutter. They'll remove old furniture and possibly say it's a good idea to put things in storage for your next home and bring in pieces that are maybe a little bit more updated, so that it would be, more positive for someone walking in and feeling like it's worth even more value.
And maybe even touching up the landscaping a bit, just so the house has some kind of curb appeal. And to remove any blemishes, something that's going to be a deal breaker.
Absolutely. And curb appeal is very important. That's your first impression as you come up to the home. If you don't like the curb appeal, then you may not even want to go inside the home, or that's a reflection of how you've kept the inside.
What are some other popular things that home buyers want today, if possible, in a home?
For home buyers, I think that the biggest trend that I'm seeing, and I'm sure Vivian will agree, is from being in the pandemic, people want large outdoor spaces, or at least an outdoor space, coming from co-ops, apartments, condos. We see a very big shift for people wanting to have an outdoor oasis. Pools are also very popular. Parking spots, people coming from inner city where, it's street parking. I was working with a client that said, listen, Vicky, any house in this area I will take, it's got to have a driveway. Because for 10 years, they were battling parking every single day after work. And even though to you and me, who maybe had driveways or ability to park anywhere, it's something that's minute, but to him, it meant the world.
Yes.
Are people do they sometimes want a big property, or does that change as they may get older, or they're worried about the upkeep? Do you think people, what are the feelings about that?
It depends where they're at in their life. If they have a family, if they have children, or just a lot of people in the household, they're going to need the property most likely. Or if they entertain, they're going to want the yard. These days, a lot of people are working from home, so they're going to need the extra space inside where they want that home office and to be able to spread out.
And again, property, outdoor and indoor, exterior and exterior, it does have maintenance. So if you're going to have your home and keep it up to a certain look and an aesthetic, everything has a value. So if you have a large parcel, you have to consider just the landscaping, putting things on it, how much it really does to maintain that. So a lot of times, getting back to demographics and psychographics, it really does play a part in possibly the money that you have and the willingness you are to spend on it.
Vicky, just give us the website for Daniel Gale, Sotheby's International Realty, where they can get more information about real estate and also contact either of you.
Sure. We each have a website. It's our first and last name. So mine is Vicky, Vicky, Lagis, Lagis, at danielgale.com. Vivian?
And it's Vivian, Vivian, Leonard, Leonard, at danielgale.com.
And what kind of information of use to buyers or sellers is on that website?
Well, what's so nice is you can actually go on and you can see all of the listings, what is present. You can go on and really see a nice biography of each agent. And it's almost like a pre-interview to look in their life, to feel like you're meeting them without even seeing them. And you're able to see what they have sold, look at the listings, and also look what Daniel Gale and Sotheby's has to offer. We have white glove service. We have different concierge that allows you to feel like you're being, held and treated properly through the entire process. And you can also go on and learn a multitude of things that have to do specifically with real estate. There's also the Sotheby's website, and everything is at your fingertips.
And would there be information there about how they can estimate the value of the property on the market today, or that requires a deeper analysis?
Well, what we love to do is, and of course it's complimentary for all clients, so we urge you to call us, email us. We'll also leave our cell phone. If you'd like a complimentary home analysis of what your home is worth and what is it worth presently today. And I just have to say, what it's worth today isn't what it was worth 2 months ago, because it is likely more, and may not be the same number in 2 months from now. We're at a very specific and pivotal moment in the market. There's not a lot on the market. So if you're looking to list your house, now is certainly the time, because it is scarce. When there's scarcity and the pool is larger and larger of the people that want to buy the house, it behooves you to put it up in a much more aggressive manner.
And for the home buyers out there, the rates are still relatively low, and they're probably only going to go up, let's say, next year.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this market is, yes, it is a seller's market, but it is actually simultaneously, it's a seller's and a buyer's market, because we have historic low interest rates that were brought down by the government. And we haven't seen this in years and years and years. Of course, they're slightly climbing up. So now is the time to take advantage of those low interest rates that are still very low in terms of what we have had in the past in history. So it actually helps both sides, buyers and sellers.
Okay, I would like to thank Vivian and Vicky for being our guest today on Law You Should Know. You can reach them at their office at 516-677-0030. If you missed any part of this program, you can listen to the podcast at nccradio.org. Anything else you want to mention quickly? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful time. I'll leave my cell phone number, Vicky, 516-830-0888.
And thank you, Ken, very much for this opportunity. My cell phone is 516-330-0968.
And I would like to thank everyone for listening to Law You Should Know on WHPC 90.3 FM, the voice of Nassau Community College. And please join us next week at this same time for another program on Law You Should Know.